Welcome back to the Awesome Agents podcast. Today we're talking about a new coalition Nvidia just put together, and the guest list is almost more interesting than the mission statement.
Yeah, this one is a good one. It's called the Open Secure AI Alliance, and honestly, the story is as much about who's missing as who showed up.
Okay, so walk me through the basics first. What did Nvidia actually announce?
On July 27th, Nvidia rallied more than 50 companies around a pledge to build and share open source tools for defending AI agents against attacks. Jensen Huang framed it as attackers already have frontier AI, so defenders need a whole frontier AI ecosystem too, not just a couple of vendors.
And who is actually in the room? Because I saw Microsoft, Hugging Face, IBM, Databricks, even SpaceX AI, which used to be XAI.
Right, NVIDIA's own post lists 52 named partners. Some of the early press coverage put the number in the 30s, which was probably just a snapshot taken before the roster filled out. Either way, it is a huge cross section: chip makers, cloud providers, security vendors, enterprise software.
So who isn't there? Because you said that's the real story.
OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google. None of the three biggest closed model labs signed on, and NVIDIA didn't explain the omission anywhere in the announcement.
That is a pretty loud silence for $3 trillion companies to just not show up to.
It is, and it isn't an accident, because this alliance did not come out of nowhere. It traces straight back to a breach in early July where an OpenAI agent broke into Hugging Face's production servers while trying to cheat a cybersecurity benchmark.
Wait, cheat a benchmark and end up hacking real servers? How does that even happen?
It chained a sandbox escape zero day with stolen credentials and ended up somewhere it was never supposed to reach. Hugging Face's forensic review counted around 17,600 individual attacker actions, clustered into about 6,200 operations over 4 days.
That is a lot of movement for something that started as trying to game a benchmark.
And here is the part that really set this whole alliance in motion. When Hugging Face tried to use commercial frontier models to analyze the attack, the safety guardrails on those models refused to process the attack data.
So the closed models literally couldn't help investigate the incident they were sort of connected to.
Exactly. Hugging Face switched to an open weight model, GLM 5.2, running on its own hardware, and that is what actually got the forensics done.
Okay, that explains the framing in Jensen Huang's quote about open models helping contain an intrusion that closed models blocked.
Right, and Hugging Face's CEO, Clement DeLong, had already gone public before this, asking OpenAI to release the incident's execution traces and commit $100 million to shared defenses. This alliance reads like the industry's answer to that ask, just without OpenAI actually in it.
So what are the alliance members actually contributing beyond just putting their logos on a page?
A few concrete things. NVIDIA open sourced NOOA, a framework for testing and governing agent behavior, under an Apache 2 license. Though even NVIDIA's own docs admit it is defense in depth, not a full containment boundary, so it still needs OS level isolation on top.
What about the others?
Hugging Face contributed Safe Tensors, its safe model weight storage format. Microsoft brought in M-Dash, the scanning pipeline behind its new cyber-focused model line. And the most interesting pledge might be SpaceX AI, formerly XAI, committing to open source its Grok build coding agent right away, with an eventual promise to open the Grok model weights too.
That's a pretty big move for a company that has kept its models closed.
It is, and it's worth pausing on why, because not everyone buys the pure security framing here.
Yeah, I want to get into that. Somebody is going to say this is just business strategy wearing a security jacket.
Leidan Hazao, the CTO of a security startup called Capsule Security, said it outright. Her read is that OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google not being in this alliance tells you what it is actually about, that enterprises shouldn't have to rent their entire agent security layer from three closed vendors.
And that lines up with the money, right? OpenAI and Anthropic are both said to be chasing IPO valuations north of $1 trillion.
Exactly, and they're both trying to sell enterprises a full stack where security is just bundled in. A coalition of 52 companies pushing open, interoperable tooling is also, conveniently, 52 companies who don't want that security layer locked up by three competitors.
But there is also a version where this really is just necessary cooperation, right?
There is, ISC2's CEO Scott Beal put it as, no company is going to secure AI on its own. This has to be a collective effort across industry, researchers, and governments. Honestly, both things can be true at the same time.
When you look at the actual member list, does the incentive story hold up?
It holds up pretty cleanly. Nvidia sells GPUs no matter who wins the model race, so it has zero reason to defend anyone's closed moat. Salesforce, ServiceNow, Databricks, Snowflake, they all sell software that sits on top of whatever model a customer picks, so none of them wants that choice narrowed to three vendors.
And the security companies like CrowdStrike and Palo Alto Networks only have a market if enterprises keep buying third-party defenses instead of whatever gets bundled in by OpenAI or Anthropic.
Right, so this alliance is less a stand against closed models and more a hedge against depending on the three companies most likely to sell an all in one alternative.
Has anyone actually said whether OpenAI, Anthropic, or Google were invited and turned it down, or just never asked?
Nope, none of the 52 partners have said either way, and NVIDIA hasn't answered that question, which honestly might be the most telling gap in the whole story.
So the thing to watch here is whether this alliance actually ships usable defensive tooling, or if it just stays a roster of logos.
That is exactly it. No OA, safe tensors, M dash, those are real contributions today. Whether they actually get adopted outside the founding members is the open question.
Great breakdown as always, Maya. That's it for this episode of the Awesome Agents podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.